Hello, Chamilovers! This tutorial is brought to you by BeezNest, the company that is behind the development of the Chamilo software together with the rest of the huge community of the Chamilo Association. So these are the reference websites, beeznest.com, if you ever need professional services to help you develop your e-learning activity. If you want to just download the software, check the documentation, then go to chamilo.org. That's chamilo.org. And then go to software, Chamilo LMS, and you'll find all the options to download the software. In this episode, we're going to check how to install the Chamilo 1.11.0 software. That's the version that's released in September 2016, and it's the procedure, the installation procedure is pretty much the same between all the versions of Chamilo, previous versions of Chamilo, and it's probably gonna be similar in the next versions as well. So it's pretty common, and it should serve you for any type of version that you might want to install in the future. So once you have a web server set up and you uploaded the Chamilo software directory inside your web root, you will have your own URL, and then you'll load the page and get something like this. Just go down, click install Chamilo. Of course, you can check the installation guide. If you click this button, you'll get directed, sorry, that's the old manual. You'd get directed to the Chamilo 1.11 installation guide. Obviously, we recommend you read it before you install it for the first time, so you avoid a lot of tricky issues that might get you to slow down on your installation process. So once you've read the installation guide, just click install Chamilo. It asks you to select the language. It will detect the language of your browser, so just click next. In this case, we're going to do that in English, and then you have a series of suggestions of configuration. So these are, the first section is requirements, and then you have a few suggestions as well, recommended settings. You know, the requirements obviously are required, and then you have a few optional settings here that are bound to pieces of software that can help your portal perform a little bit better. So if you check if everything's green, you can go to the next step. Sometimes if this is the first time you install a web software on your server, you might get a notice here that says that you should check the time zone settings of your web server. This is a setup that there is a little bit of information there about where to change it, but basically in your php.ini file, you should be able to find the date.time zone setting and just set it to any city you're in, and that should be all right. Just follow the documentation and everything should be fine. So for version 1.11, we still accept PHP version 5.4 and superior. In this case, I have a 5.6. This we've also tested it, not enough, but we've tested it on PHP 7, and that seems to work fine. So if you're a little bit more adventurous, then you can try with PHP 7 if you like. This is pretty much a check of every extension that is required, and then some, as I said, some optional extensions that will help your portal perform better, like the Zend Upcache extension and the APCU extension, which will help you with the caching of code and boost a little bit the performances of your Chamilo installation. Next, you have the recommended settings. These are all settings set in the php.ini file. So if you see that any one of these is appearing in red, then then you might want to change it. Here on my server, I have left the display errors settings so I can see the error messages, but if you're in a production portal, it's really better to hide those error messages, as they can provide any attacker with unnecessary information better said, information that you would prefer not to give to any attacker. So the last section of this page is the directory and files permissions. This will check if the permissions are alright for any of these directories. Just make sure that these directories are writable by the web server. Usually that's a user called www.data or HTTPD or sometimes anonymous. So there's a particular name for that in CentOS configurations as well. Anyway, so just check that the permissions are alright, and if everything's fine, then it will just show everything green and blue as it is the case here. If you're upgrading from previous version, then you might want to click that button. This says 1.9, but actually it works from 1.10 as well. If you have a previous version 1.8 of Chamilo, you will have to migrate from 1.8 to 1.9 with the 1.9 package, and then you can migrate from 1.9 to 1.11 without issues. So let's click new installation. You have to accept the license. Please fill the information here. This is contact information to help us know about our community and who installs software. I'm just gonna skip this step now to go faster here. If you don't have a specific user set up for this installation, just make sure that you have a database user that allows you to create a database and use it. I'm going to check the database connection. In this case, the database already exists because this is a system where I've installed Chamilo many times. So I'm just going to go ahead and that's going to erase my previous database, but it's okay because I'm actually gonna reuse the same database as before. Just gonna clean it up and install a new version of Chamilo. So my browser asks me if I want to remember that password, but because it's the database password, it's really useless. In this case, as it is a local installation, I'm just gonna use the admin password. Please make sure that you have a secret password here. You only have to enter it once, and then once you're inside the install portal, you can just change your password afterwards from the user's administration page as an administrator. So make sure if you're gonna install a production server, make sure that you use the production password here. And in general terms, please try to use, if it's a production portal, try to use HTTPS, try to use an SSL certificate to secure your portal, because otherwise it's really, the communication is vulnerable to any kind of listener or man in the middle attack. And so we don't want that really. So if you can, please make sure that you use HTTPS, and so your portal will be secure. So in this case, it's just a reminder, do I want the portal to be installed in English? So in the first page, I was able to choose my language, but that was the language of the installation guide, of the installation procedure. If I want the portal to be installed in French, for example, I can just select French here, and then although the installation process is in English, the portal will be installed in French. Please note that Chamilo supports many languages at the same time, so you can have your portal's default language be French, but then have users in English, in Chinese, in Portuguese, whatever language your users use in general. So here you have to fill a little bit of additional information. What will the name of your portal be? This is something that will appear here in the title bar of your browser, in the tab as well. Then you can select the URL for your company. This will be available as metadata in the page header, the page HTML head section. The encryption method, we really recommend using bcrypt. It's the most secure one. You can choose another one if you have to, for example, to exchange with other types of portals that do not support bcrypt yet. Just make sure that if you have to interconnect your portal with something else. This is one of the only settings that cannot be changed afterwards. So all the other settings on this page can be changed afterward, but the encryption method, once it's installed in one encryption method, you cannot change it because you don't really know the unencrypted passwords of the users, so you cannot really allow them to change those passwords. The self-registration, this shouldn't be enabled if it's a production portal, if it's not an open portal. So this allows users to self-register to the portal, create their own account. You can also select after approval, so people will be able to create their accounts, but if you do not approve them, then they will stay there. They won't be able to access the portal once the account is created. The same goes for the self-registration as a trainer. So that's only true if you have the possibility to self-register. But if you have, so in this case, it doesn't matter because it's no in the possibility to self-register. But if you want to let users self-register and you want some of them to be able to say that they want to create courses in your portal, then you should put something like this. Okay, so we're gonna leave it to no. The next page is basically a reminder of all the installation settings that we configured. And this is just to remember that the install script will erase all the tables in the database that we selected. So if the database that we selected before contains critical information, please do a small backup before you proceed with the next step. So once that you click install Chamilo, it will actually do the process of installation. This means creating all the databases and all the folder structures. It shouldn't last for very long because it's basically it's an empty structure, so there's not a lot of data to be inserted, but it's still creating about 200 tables for the whole software, and that's it. So in this case, it says okay, the installation is complete. Go to your newly created portal. I'm just gonna go there and then I'm connected. Okay, if you remember well, I selected French for the installation, so I'm gonna change that. So I'm gonna go to the administration. So this is the administration page. You have different blocks that allow you to configure everything. We're gonna come back on this on the next tutorial, but for now, I'm just gonna go to languages and pick English as a default language. There we go, it's already English, so that means that we have to change the language of our admin user. There we go. Let's just change it. Okay, that's also English. Then it's probably a refresh issue because I was just there with my browser before, so I'm just gonna quit, connect again, and there we go. We have everything in English. So that's it. We've installed our Chamilo portal, and in the next tutorials, we're going to see how to create a course, how to create users, and that kind of stuff.
Chamilo, une solution BeezNest.